I don't know about making it easier, because as the technology itself improves, so your understanding of it, and the amount of learning you had to do sort of kind of went up with it. So you it's almost like going back to school, really, because you seem to spend half of your time in the studio with a manual, trying to figure out why did it just do what it did, or why isn't it doing what I'm trying to get it to do. The early days of things like mini moogs and so on, where you just had a big lump of big massive dials and switches, really quite, once you know what they did, quite simple really. And then you get into multi-function menu buttons, and it all starts to get just cumbersome. But more to do with the interface than the actual machines themselves. It just the way of presenting so much, because they could do so much. Soon after the mini moogs came along, the machines that followed were very, very capable, and they could do so much that they just had a very poor way of kind of giving you all this information. So they had it editing, bolt-on editors and all kinds of stuff like that. But no, I always found that the more that they could do, so the more choice they gave you, so the more you could end up sitting in the studio thinking, I wonder if we should have this sound, this, and then you'd have like 50, and then you'd have 1,000, and you could just spend months and months and months just experimenting and trying to find what was the right one. Well, in some respects, having a lesser choice is better. On the other hand, if you're all about sound and coming up with new sounds, then that's what you want. So it was you had to learn discipline, I suppose. You've only got a certain amount of time. You'll be making this album for the rest of your life. So bring it in. You started. You sort of learn, or you with an early part of an album. One of the most important parts of it is deciding what its parameters are, what sort of album you're going to make. Therefore, what sort of sounds will apply to it, so that when you do go off in these tangents, you're going off on a particular tangent, and you're looking for a certain thing that will suit that particular album. And with each album, you adjust that. So I found the increasing capabilities of the technology to be a really, really good thing, but it did have its price. It did take a lot of learning, and then it's still going. It's getting worse and worse. I don't think so, because the very first thing I had to go at number one after Intellect, it got guitar all over it. So for some of us, guitar had always been a part of it. It's just that your like the main emphasis is on electronic synthesizer things, and I still think that was true with Violator. It could easily be that the band themselves were just trying to broaden what they were doing, and so guitar becomes a bigger part of it than it had been before. I honestly, I don't know, but I don't remember being aware of electronic music going through some kind of sort of deliberate broadening. By the end of the 80s and into the early 90s, it had become just another form of music anyway. Almost everyone was, even bands like Queen that used to say on their albums, no synthesizers on this record, like a badge of honour, quietly started using them, and so it just become part of the mainstream. Almost everybody had them, was doing it. So, and you got people like 9 Inch Nails in America, who by then were massive, and guitar was very, very much a part of what they were doing. The whole industrial thing, for all of its noises and electronic core, was still had a huge amount of guitar going on in it. So I don't know really. I think just that sort of pure electronic music was probably just run out of steam a little bit, so people were just broadening out.